So good morning. Another one of the 39 melachot is the melacha of tofer, which is sewing. They used to have to sew the curtains one to another in order to be able to fix the curtains. And the opposite of this melacha would be korea, would be ripping. So therefore, a person has to make sure to avoid doing these two melachot. They used to rip in order to be able to fix it, to sew. When you rip around where it's a little bit ripped, you rip more in order to make it a nice stitch. That is also considered a melacha. This is found in the laws of Shabbat in Shulchan Aruch Siman Shin Mem. So therefore, it's a sort of sew two stitches into clothing and to tighten the stitches to make it closed. Or as opposed to, there's also tolada. There's also a subcategory of this melacha, which is even gluing. Gluing two things together is like stitching. There's a subcategory of stitching, and therefore be also considered asur because of tofer. So therefore, a person cannot take glue and glue two things together, even using adhesive, even using tape to tape something to the wall, to tape something one page to another, is also considered asur in the laws of Shabbat because of tofer. However, if a person wants to use a post-it note, a person wants to use a sticky pad, a person wants to post-it notes or bookmarks on his sticky bookmarks on his book, the poskim permitted if he's not doing it for it to stay for a long time, not more than a week. A person is allowed to use stickers, they're allowed to use bookmarks, all these things. If he's not going to leave it there for more than a week, it'll be permitted on Shabbat. Band-aids, there's no tofer by a person, by a human. The poskim write that the person puts a band-aid in order to close up, this quote-unquote stitch closed his wound by putting a band-aid. That's 100% mutar also on Shabbat as well. There's no tofer by a person. As opposed to by ripping, let's say, ripping pages that were glued together. This will also be considered melacha of korea. We're going to speak soon about ripping bounty, not on the line, on the line. Doesn't make a difference, toilet paper on the line, not on the line. There's all asur on Shabbat as well because you're creating a piece that you now can use, and that would be considered korea midrabanan. It would be considered ripping on Shabbat midrabanan. We spoke about the saran wrap and the aluminum, all those things, the aluminum foil, all those things cannot be ripped on the Shabbat either. It'll be asur midrabanan to do so because he wants to use that sheet afterwards. It's considered tikkun midrabanan. It'll be forbidden to do so. But the main thing is that a person should not glue things together and not stitch things together. But if a person uses a bulovka also, a person uses a safety pin to put up the hem of his pants, that will also be permitted, or a zipper, or a button, or paper clips to hold things together. Since they do not require ripping in order to undo what you did, so then it will be permitted to do so. So if a person has a hem, he could put it with a paper clip, he could put it with a safety pin, and there's not a problem whatsoever. So therefore, the person has to pay attention that the buttons, the zippers, and the paper clips, since they don't need to be ripped, they're permitted to be done on Shabbat. But let's say a stapler also will be something of a asur because you have to rip it in order to separate. There's a wonderful story of a Hasid who was approached by someone asking for tzedakah, and he said, "Listen, you should help me out. You should give me a little bit more than what you gave me." He says, "Because we're relatives." But he told him, we're distant relatives. We're not so close. Don't think it's such a big deal that we're related. So afterwards, he told him, he says, "What do you pray every day?" You say in Amidah, Elokei who? Elokei of what? Elokei of what? He says, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. He says, "Who are these people to you?" He says, "What do you mean? They're my great-grandparents. They're my distant relatives." He says, "So why do you pray in their name? Every day you pray in their name. Who says it's going to help you? They're your distant relative." He says, "What do you mean? We're family." He says, "Exactly. If they're going to help you, you have to help me. We're also distant relatives." So therefore, a person has to know that if you consider Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov your relatives, you should consider all the Jewish people also your relatives. They're also very close to you, just like Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are close to us.